I think we can all agree it's about time a aging veteran superstar player signs with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Yet another big name going to Tampa Bay. They love their stars there in Tampa Bay. Julio Jones is a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. This is not a drill. This is real. And you know what? I think it's fun. I'm excited. This should be interesting, especially because this is a great move for Tampa Bay, right? Either he hits and he's awesome, and now you have a great receiver, or he doesn't hit, and you don't need Julio Jones to be successful. You have Mike Evans, you have Chris Godwin, you have Russell Gage. This is already a great receiving core, but you add Julio Jones, and if you can get even close to prime, I mean, if you get prime Julio Jones, this is the best receiving core of all time, or at least tied with last year, I guess, when they were healthy, but they were never healthy last year. So maybe tied with 2 years ago would be the move. Now, so Julio Jones is 33, and he's not coming off of his best season. You know, his PFF grade was 74.2. That's not horrible, but it really is kind of the amount of just touches he had. He did not get very many carries, was kind of, or not carries, not many snaps in general, which is kind of the main concern. You know, his overall receiving totals are very much down, only 434 last year, whereas, you know, he only had 771 the year before. In 9 games, he played 10 games this year. So that's significantly down when you compare it to how he's typically a 400-yard receiver with ease. You know, yardage totals are down. That being said, like, you know, 33 is not ancient, and if he's not going to play at 100%, like that would, you know, not that I think that they hope he can play at 100%. But again, it is not it's not necessarily what has to happen. Julio Jones at 50% can be someone who, you know, can make it work. And one other thing that I saw is that, you know, Adam Schefter tweeted out, Julio Jones drew interest from, amongst others, the Green Bay Packers and the Buccaneers, but Tampa Bay was the most aggressive. So it seems to me like there's 2 benefits to this, right? You're getting a player who could help you, and you're also keeping that player away from the, you know, Green Bay Packers, who might be your biggest competition in the NFC, although obviously the Rams are still there. The Rams are the team that won it all last year, so maybe that's a bit too much to say, but one of your biggest competitions in the NFC, certainly. So for someone like Julio, one thing I definitely thought of was, if you remember, there's you got to look it up. There's an infamous, or famous, I guess for most people, infamous for me as a Bucs fan, clip of Julio Jones. You know, they made, you know, those like Monday Night Football graphics they would make, and they were all insane. Well, they made one of Julio Jones like walking through pirate ships and destroying it, because he always destroys the Buccaneers. So that's another aspect here, is just, hey, we don't have to worry about that happening. We don't have to play against Julio Jones anymore. That's a great situation here for the Buccaneers. So if you've been following this channel for a bit, you know how much I talk about 2 things, really: receivers and depth. And I think that, you know, one of the reasons I still think about last year in that playoff game against the Rams, you know, there was a lot of things that went wrong. The Rams were the better team that day. I think that's fair to say. You know, yes, the Buccaneers benefited from 4 fumbles. Also worth mentioning, the Buccaneers turned it over a couple times, had that blown coverage. Neither team played perfect, but still, one of the real things that made that comeback difficult, and why I think that, you know, they even struggled getting the ball moving during that comeback, was they had no receivers. They had, you know, Chris Godwin was out at that point, and, you know, Antonio Brown had left. But even that, a lot of their depth got banged up in that game, to the point where their only 2 eligible receivers left were Scotty Miller and Mike Evans. They did not have a third wide receiver. Cameron Brate was running wide receiver routes because that's all they had. So I think one thing that adding someone like Julio Jones will do, like, listen, if you get banged up that much, you know, nothing's going to help you out. But what he can do is just be another option. The reality is, with Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, and Russell Gage, sure, that's a great 1, 2, 3. Are they all going to stay healthy? Like, the odds are, the answer is no. The odds are someone is going to get injured, just because it's football. You have to bank on the fact, and you have to accept the fact that somebody is going to get hurt. And this is, to me, getting Julio Jones here is the absolute correct team building strategy. We don't know if it's going to work out, but let's talk about the process. The process of getting a guy who has potential to be very good, at worst is still a solid player, and, you know, it's a position of value, a position of importance. For me, I have it that wide receivers are, you know, either the second or the third most important position because it's a passing league. So getting guys who can get open is vital. And Julio Jones, when he's healthy, can get open. And even if he's not open, can make the catch over people. So when you add on those two aspects, and you're getting depth, which is the other thing I always talk about. Don't go into the season needing everyone to stay healthy. You're going to need a couple people to stay healthy. That's the reality of the business. If Brady goes down, they're screwed. It is what it is. But now if Mike Evans goes down, they're maybe not screwed, whereas prior to this signing, they might have been. Now, maybe they still would be because we don't know what we're getting from Julio Jones, but you never know what you're getting from anybody. Might as well get a guy with a high upside. So, again, we don't know the contract details, so there is some questions that how much money is he getting? I'm assuming if there was interest that he's not just playing for peanuts. I'm assuming there was some money involved, and, it's fascinating, and I think it's also probably fair to say, I'm sure some people will bring up, Julio Jones might be bigger in name at this point than he is actual value. But let's say that's true. I mean, let's say he's the guy that, we saw in Tennessee who played for roughly half the season and only got 400 yards. That's not the end of the world. Like that, you'll take that. Like that's valuable. Like that, you're adding stuff here. And when you're a team like Tampa Bay, one of the biggest luxuries they have is they couldn't care less about 2023 unless Brady says he's going to play another year. They know that their window is now. They know that it's running out. They don't care how old you are. Can you still play? And if they believe Julio Jones has a chance of being able to still play, it's a smart strategy. And again, I think, part of me does have to wonder, it's like, how does Green Bay not make this happen? How does Green Bay let this slip through their fingers and let him go to Tampa Bay? That seems like just a brutal mistake. I just don't get it. I don't understand the logic by some of these teams that just aren't making these moves. Again, maybe you want Odell instead. In that case, I get it. Fine, whatever. But, if you have a chance to get a Julio Jones, get a Julio Jones. I think it's pretty simple. This guy was traded for a second-round pick last year, and that was considered, a great value move by the Tennessee Titans. Yeah, they cut him, and, I'm not even sure if that was entirely the correct move, but they decided to do that, which I understood the logic behind it. I did, but now I think that, I just think that this is I just like these types of moves. I like this is something that they did in Moneyball, right? In Moneyball, they would go out and they would sign veterans who are maybe holding on, and those veterans would still be able to hang on and be successful, but they were getting unfairly criticized because of, the fact that they were older. So maybe that's the case of Julio, maybe not. At the end of the day, who really knows of this stuff, but it should be very fascinating. What do you guys think of this Julio Jones signing? Let me know in the comments below. What are your thoughts? Will Julio Jones help the Buccaneers, or is this just a big name, but maybe like a Richard Sherman situation where it won't actually matter? Always love hearing from you, and of course, as always, thanks for watching.